A new budget proposal from the city will help low-income residents receive half-price Metro cards. Koala Che has more on this.
If the City Council has its way, low-income New Yorkers will pay half price for Metro cards. Council members approved a $15 million proposal to fund a new pilot program. Transit advocates and low-income riders are hoping the proposal will get passed. 23-year-old Samuel Santella is one of the low-income riders who would benefit. Every morning, he takes 2 buses and a train to take his little sister to school. The commute is over in an hour. Mr. Santella is paying $121 for a full-price Metro card. That's almost a quarter of his family's living expenses. He's not alone.
We're still economically struggling. Have a lower price Metro card will help us you have no idea.
It's going to be helpful for students from a low-income family. For me, I live in Project, you know how it is. So which is going to help us, help our parents out.
According to a Community Service Society report, 1 in 4 low-income New Yorkers say they can't afford a Metro card. Transit advocacy groups have been working closely with the City Council members to get the proposal passed. The pilot program will target the low-income residents, specifically households living under the federal poverty line. That's about $24,000 for a family of 4. By 2020, transit advocates hope to fully fund a $200 million program that will cover New Yorkers aged 18 to 64 who live under the poverty line. That's about 800,000 people. But Mayor de Blasio opposed city funding for this program. He believes the state should be responsible for paying. Transit advocates hope the program will be adopted in the city's budget for the next fiscal year, which will be released by July 1st.
Thank you very much, Koala. I think the big question, I suppose, me and the viewers would like to know is why is the mayor opposed to paying for this program?
Because the mayor thinks that the state should be responsible for the funding because the MTA is a state authority. And actually, the mayor's office also said that the city has already paid $16 million annually to subsidize subway fares for disabled riders, for school children, and elderly.
Thank you very much, Koala.
Thank you, Anade.
You're welcome.
In a low-income neighborhood known more for its problems than for its art, this outdoor festival speaks to the community.
God woke up this morning and said, let me make a nice chocolate boy.
From poetry to painting, local artists have an audience here in East Brooklyn that appreciates their work, like Stephanie Pfaffer-Roy, who draws women of color.
I feel like it's fitting for my art to just be here so young girls could see it and see representations of them, positive representations of themselves.
The festival is organized by Catherine Green of Arts East New York. Under a new cultural plan, New York City is targeting programs like this one for funding increases.
We want to make sure that every community in New York City has that sort of opportunity to unlock and open the minds of children and youth all over this city.
Green says the additional money will help her better market their programs and make them more widely available.
New York spends $188 million a year on art and culture, more than any other city in the country. But some neighborhoods benefit way more than others. Most of the funding goes to 33 city-owned institutions like the Museum of Natural History, but they are mostly located in Manhattan.
That's a long trip, not to mention an expensive outing for families who live more than an hour away by public transportation.
It's pretty far to go to, but it'd be nice to see more of that in the community, especially Broadway show. I mean, if we could have a Broadway show in Brownsville, that would be great.
We think this is going to have a very big impact in low-income communities.
According to the city's Commissioner of Culture, the $1.5 million it's spending in these areas is a good investment.
These kinds of activities, arts activities, are correlated with a much bigger impact in low-income communities. Parts of cities that have rich cultural activities are actually safer, they have better school outcomes, and they're healthier.
It's a plan that allows neighborhoods to celebrate their unique cultures, and that has East Brooklyn dancing in the streets. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, New York. While those who decided to leave by plane are paying a premium for their tickets, prompting accusations of price gouging against airlines.
I just tried to book the first ticket I was able to get, and it was on United, and it was almost $1,500.
Immigrants, undocumented and legal, came together on Monday to protest President Trump's immigration and policies and to call attention to workers' rights. Our reporter, Koala Shea, joins us from downtown Manhattan with more. Koala.
Yes, Jamie, President Trump has served in office for 100 days, and many immigrants in New York City are upset with the president's policies. About 4,000 immigrant workers gathered at Foley Square and focused attention on what they call is the need for increased protection for undocumented immigrants.
Every day we feel upset. Every time we watch the news, he say, we don't want to get any Mexicans. We want to build the wall. We want to deportation everyone in here.
President Trump's administration's focus on deportations has really created a lot of fear in the community. It's led to families being pulled apart from each other.
These people are protesting the executive order that President Trump signed on January 25th that make it easier for law enforcement to deport certain undocumented immigrants. The administration says that it's necessary to protect national security. Here in New York City, lawmakers are considering 9 bills that will protect undocumented immigrants.
Working with the City Council, we're going to make sure that anyone unjustly faced with deportation will have the legal assistance they need to protect themselves and their family.
Mayor de Blasio said that the city will spend $16.4 million on legal assistance to undocumented immigrants. This will also be a part of his budget, which will be reviewed by the City Council later this week.
Koala, can you tell me how many undocumented immigrants are living in New York City?
Yes, Jamie, according to the Fiscal Policy Institute, there are about 500,000 undocumented immigrants live in New York City, and they contribute to $40 billion. That's about 3% to the state's GDP.
Thank you, Koala.
You can change this election today. If you think that by door knocking or talking to someone doesn't make a difference, you're wrong. It makes all the difference in the world.
For months now, buses and vans of Clinton supporters have gathered here in Queens to travel out of state. Monday was the last day.
One more day to bring a victory, a historic victory, when we will be able to elect the first woman president in this country.
Many of the campaigners are Latinos.
We are here and we have a voice, and especially now when we've been kind of put apart by the opposite candidate.
The Latino community, again, from day one, we were sort of thrusted into this campaign with the comments that were made, and we're going to be here till the end.
This is my 4th time I go canvassing for Hillary. I went 3 times in Philadelphia. The last 3 times I went to, there were Black American communities. Now we go to Latino communities.
Today's destination, Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Magnífico, muchas gracias. Ok, si tiene alguna pregunta o todo está claro con todo.
No, que gane ella.
Que gane ella, sí, eso es. Muchas gracias, mucho entusiasmo. Maria said that she's going to definitely vote for Hillary Clinton, and her husband is too. They know the voting center, they know everything they need to know, and they're ready, and they want us, on Saturday we're going to celebrate, and all for her. Mientras haya trabajo y salud, claro. ¿Verdad? Exactamente. Exacto. Ok, bueno, muchas gracias.
Okay. No, gracias.
Celebramos mañana de una vez, si Dios quiere. Gracias. He says maybe not for us, but we would like her to, first, to be a good president. We think she's going to be. And secondly, we would love if she can do something about immigration. Not for us because we don't have that problem, but for people that we know that are going through that. So that would be nice if she can come with a solution.
When you go out and sit somewhere public, like the subway, I think you have to be ready for unpredictable events to happen. About 9 months ago, I made a little office with wall art, and I would just talk to people. And because of that, they would say things like, oh wow, this is great, this feels like therapy. Then after the election, I thought people were going to have a really hard time talking to each other. So I brought some Post-its. Since many people consider the wall to be a political commentary or a result of the election, a lot of people who have a contrary position are going to show up and try and, light people on fire and make people upset.
But you did, because you said you were going to allow people who are for Trump to put a message on your wall. That is a political message. When you say that is going to be accepted, that is a political message. You're willing to allow hate and anti-acceptance to exist, and that is wrong. Do not vote for this wall. If you want diversity and openness, it's not okay.
A young man was yelling at me because he was saying that I was censoring what people were saying. He says that I'm normalizing hate.
I don't care what a post-it note says. A post-it note is nothing. A post-it note is nothing.
Read it. Regardless of whether people agree with each other or not, if you're going to provide someone with an opportunity to express themselves, you know, we learn through dialogue, so we need to talk to people who are different than us.
It's a two-sided dialogue. So I read the note. Here it is. Here's the idea. It came to me, I read it. I understand it. I do not agree with it. Anger now, fight next. So my reply is to drop the note.
This is a space that I'm encouraging people to be inclusive and to respect what other people have to say. So what I'm saying is that maybe this isn't a place for you to take action.
Would you say that a note that says white supremacy one is inclusive?
In that moment, it seemed like conversation was only making him more upset. So in that way, silence was maybe the best option.
No. She did not. No. What do you mean no? He can say what he wants. He can say what he wants, bro. He can say what he wants. What's the issue? He can say what he wants, bro. Why are you holding back free speech? I thought this was about free speech. Why are you saying not to talk? I thought it was about free speech. Exactly. It's not about free speech, bro. It's not about free speech where you're telling people not to respond to me.
It wasn't as a measure to curb their free speech. It was for them to realize that their speech in that moment was acting like fuel on a fire.
Someone was talking, this guy right here was talking, okay? And then you said don't respond. And you're talking about inclusiveness? Get the fuck out of here. And you know what? I support a lot of the notes I just knocked down, but I just want him to go pick them back up.
I feel like I learned a lot about people and when is a good time to have conversation and when is not a very good time to have conversation.
I think that people really need an opportunity to come together, to get out their thoughts. A lot of people that I work with have really been struggling since the election in various ways, and I think that it's helpful for people to be able to express whatever feelings they may be having and also see support, even if that support is anonymous, to know that they're not alone.
I wrote that life isn't that bad, and life isn't going to be that bad. People have been through a lot worse, and we're pretty lucky just to live here, and especially like in New York.
You shouldn't be discouraged by what's happening right now. You should be full of passion and drive to make the world better. I'd love to go to places that are red states because ultimately this whole election happened because people were so fearful. And that fear isolated everyone. You know, if I can do projects like this, not just in the country, but all over the world, I think that'd be awesome. I would love for Subway Therapy to be my full-time job.
The works of Norman Rockwell provide a window into America's past, small-town 20th century life, whether it's after-hours fun seen here at Shuffleton's Barbershop or the bustle of Blacksmith's Boy. These paintings were donated by the artist to the Berkshire Museum in the 1950s. But the museum in the state of Massachusetts, where Rockwell lived and worked for the last 25 years of his life, fell on hard times and decided to sell them.
My grandfather gave them to be viewed by the people of the Berkshires, probably in gratitude to the director and to the museum. I think the museum is losing its soul. I think it's it's very clear that it has a mission around science, history, and art, and it's decided to sell the art in order to invest in the other parts of the mission.
Norman Rockwell's descendants aren't the only ones upset about it, but the museum's board, which turned down our request for an interview, says it's been losing $1 million a year and needs to raise money to revamp its site to attract new visitors. A Massachusetts court has delayed the sale after the family and the state attorney general's office sued. The state argued the sale, also opposed by the Association of Art Museum Directors and the American Alliance of Museums, may violate the museum's responsibility as a charitable trust. Art critic Lee Rosenbaum says the move would set a bad precedent, allowing cash-strapped institutions to potentially convert public treasures into liquid assets.
The Metropolitan Museum couldn't find the money for its expansion that it's planning to do, but it didn't sell the Rembrandts. That's not the way to do it. What you do is you pause, you postpone, you make some cuts. I mean, the Met laid off some people, and you just wait until you can get the consensus and the donor support that you need.
Or risk the sale of iconic works, such as those of Norman Rockwell, to private collectors, where the American public won't get a chance to see them. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera.
Thousands of workers gather at City Hall to demand improved safety at construction sites.
We as the union construction workers are now standing up and being the voice for the non-union workers so that they get properly trained so we end this epidemic of fatalities on job sites.
Since July 2016, there have been 346 injuries and 7 fatalities, nearly 40% increase over the year before, according to the Department of Buildings. The Building and Construction Trade Council is sponsoring the rally. They say non-union workers are not getting trained properly.
I started non-union, I went to work for the union, and I'll never go back because they work unsafe.
This group wants City Council to pass legislation that will require safety training for all workers, union and not. Inside City Hall, lawmakers are considering this bill, one of 21. This real estate developer hires non-union workers and says they get trained.
We don't have accidents on the jobs. There are non-union people in open shop that may. We do not. We train our people.
The construction workers hope City Council will pass the legislation, but there is no timeline. For the Ink.NYC, I'm Koala Shea, reporting from City Hall.
I know myself, I won't exercise without a goal. So having a goal like the marathon is a good reason and a good motivation for me to get into shape and exercise. And this is the first time I'm doing it since I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease almost 10 years ago when I was 38. Sometimes when I'm running, my right arm is stiff and my right leg is stiff. I've gotten good about taking my medicine. The hope is to stay ahead of the disease and really stay in shape so that the runs continue to be manageable and fun.
I felt good. It was a nice, slow 6 miles, gentle pace. It's good. It's a good run. What do you think? Yeah?
How do you feel, Karen?
I feel proud of Brett, and I feel good that I could keep up with him. I'm not a runner like he is, so I'm really excited to see him finish the marathon next week. He's been working really hard for this.
My progress has been pretty good. I mean, I'm in much better shape. I can feel the difference. You know, going up the hills, I can go faster than I used to. I'm not walking as much. You know, when I started training, I would do 6 miles. I'd walk 2 or 3 of them, and now I'm running the whole distance. I've been training for the New York City Marathon to raise money for the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research. The New York City Marathon has over 100 Team Fox runners. Together, we're going to raise over $1 million. Some of the people who run the marathon for Team Fox have Parkinson's, like me. Some people have a family member, a parent, a grandparent, a sibling who has Parkinson's, and they run it for them. And some people have no connection at all to the disease, and they just want to fundraise. My only goal was to be able to get to the starting line of the New York City Marathon and finish. Didn't matter what my time is, I just wanted to finish. I'm very satisfied with my training. I know I'm going to finish the marathon.
It's Beer Week. Restaurants are promoting beer and customers are drinking it. But one brewery sees a chance to make a difference by helping the American Civil Liberties Union.
I think right now we're all in the midst of just a crazy time in our country. If we're going to be out drinking beer and having a good time, why not do it for a good cause?
Taproom 307 on the Lower East Side is offering a special menu. 8 international dishes paired with local beers. 25% of its profits from this menu will go to the ACLU. Employees, managers, and the distributor are all on board.
I appreciate it that they want to help. Let's make money, but also turn this into something that can be a beneficial thing, to the community.
The beer manager came up with the idea, inspired by the diverse backgrounds of her colleagues, including the chef Omar Lopez, who is from Mexico.
We had to show to everybody
We're working very hard. We are important in America.
Tap Room 307 has done similar fundraising events in the past. Last month, they raised $4,000 for Planned Parenthood. This time it's the ACLU because they support its mission.
Human rights are crucial. The food industry, the beer industry, this is a very inclusive industry.
Although Tap Room 307 just started its pairing menu for a day, they say what's more important than fundraising is to raise people's awareness for ACLU's immigration efforts. Reporting from the Lower East Side, this is Koala Shea for the Eng.NYC. Although the investigation of the Paris attacks that occurred on November 13 is still ongoing, APN had a chance to talk to a reporter who works for a Franco-Chinese newspaper in Paris and the director of Boston University Paris Center. They told us about the situation in Paris over the past weeks. The reporter recalled what happened on that Friday night, November 13, when the city was under attack. He was just 200 meters away from the Bataclan concert hall, where the major attack took place. He recounted his own experience.
Around 9 p.m. on that night, people in my office started hearing many police cars and fire trucks passing by, which went on for about half an hour. We soon heard that shootings were happening in the 10th arrondissement and that about 5 or 6 people had been shot. Only later did we find out about the other attacks, like the suicide bombing at the Stade de France, where the French president was watching a football game. When I went out to investigate, at first it seemed like a pretty normal Friday night, with people drinking outside and not many realizing what had taken place. The attacks happened so suddenly, some people who saw the police blocking the roads felt confused and even quarreled with the officers. The atmosphere was intense. I was stuck in my office all night because both ways heading out were blocked by police barricades and public transportation was suspended. It was about midnight when I heard that the terrorists in Bataclan were shot dead. So the whole thing had been going on for about 3 or 4 hours. I left my office at 6 a.m. on the following morning, and the barricades were still up.
Renee Pombriand, the director of Boston University's Paris Center, also shared her personal reactions to this event.
What's the situation like in France right now?
Well, it's kind of like feeling hungover or kind of like someone hit you over the head. You know, you're kind of dizzy and you don't really, it happened all so fast and it was all so horrible that you just try to wake up from it all and then you realize, wow, it really is true what happened. You see a lot more military, a lot more police. You hear a lot of sirens, a lot of people checking bags when you go into public places. Sometimes you have to open your coat also because it's winter now. So in the metros, for example, they'll be closed sometimes because someone left a bag. So they're always worried it's a bomb. So they have to check it out first. Things like that. More annoying nuisances, but then again, everyone's used to it now. All U.S. programs in Paris and in France, no one decided to close because the French schools are still operating. The universities still have classes. And as of the Monday, everyone was back to school. So there's no reason why, we should think that this is going to happen again or that our students will be targeted. But we continue to run our classes and our internships. And next semester, the good news is that for the moment, no one's dropped out and no one in other programs either. So that's all good.
Gerard Araud, France's ambassador to the United States, sent out a message to all French citizens resident in the U.S. He says, in this difficult period of our history, the support expressed for our home country is a valuable source of comfort. President Obama declared strongly in the hours following the attacks that the United States is on our side in the fight against extremism and terrorism. Such messages remind us of the string of friendships that unites both of our peoples. Please look for the extended version of this interview and a blog post on the Paris attacks on our website. For Arlington Public News, I'm Koala Shea.
Herb flavor into it, a little freshness.
At the International Restaurant Show this year at the Javits Center, a Japanese rice demonstration caught people's attention. Chefs are making dishes using Japanese premium rice, combining this Asian ingredient with Western cooking styles.
The Japanese premium rice is a pretty versatile ingredient because it's a short grain rice. We use the Koshihikari Japanese premium rice to make risotto.
The Japanese Food Service Association based in Tokyo planned a rice showcase. They want to promote the significance of rice in Japanese cuisines overseas.
和食の中でも一番大事な要素になりますので、
お米の美味しさっていうのを
In 2013, UNESCO added Japanese traditional cuisine, washuku, to the cultural heritage list.
登録されたというのは日本のその食文化が昔からの食文化が
The Japanese government statistics show that rice production in Japan has fallen 20% from 2005 to 2015. Shimoguchi said the food industry in Japan is westernized. He hopes to build up the rural reputation of rice here in New York in order to get the Japanese people's attention. So what I'm tasting right now is the brown rice pudding made by Japanese Premium Rice. This is being featured in the International Restaurant Show this week, which has attracted people from all over the world.
I only wish I had a bit more, a bowl full. It was very tasty. It was a rice that I've never tasted before.
Jennifer McIntosh is visiting from the UK, consider using Japanese premium rice in her new restaurant in New York. For the Ink.NYC, this is Koala Shea reporting from the Java Center. Because China's two-child policy has been just implemented, Chinese students from different colleges in Boston talk about the impact of this policy on their future plans. And we also asked a specialist about his opinions on this policy in an environmental perspective.
I would say I'm feeling pretty neutral about this because right now in China it's still really overly populated. So I don't want to see more children in this world. But personally, I still think those people, they might need siblings to be with them, maybe grow up together so that they know how to share with each other and they can also have a better sense of responsibility. And also for this family, they need someone to share the burden to support the family.
Actually, because I major in psychology and education, I've learned from research that actually having a sibling growing up with, it's better for the development of a child. So I feel really happy about the policy because I feel like there are more children in China can be really beneficial from this policy.
I think it might be a good thing for me to think about because if I get a chance to get married and then get the chance to have a second baby, I would definitely do so because, to be frank, growing up alone is kind of lonely.
A Brandeis University environmental professor remarked on possible impacts on resource use and population growth from the implementation of the policy.
Resources are limited, and now we're looking at populations of 7, 8, 9 billion people. We're over 7 already. So are we doomed? Is it already too many? So this is a question about the world, not just about China. And I guess I would say I'm pretty optimistic. I don't think that the Chinese population growth is certainly not a global game changer in terms of resources. Again, I feel like the technological gains we've made in energy, water and food, those basics, the things that tend to be fought over, that cause conflict, that cause displacement of people and so on, that knowledge has reached a point where if we're collaborative as a species, if we're internationally collaborative with technological transfer and knowledge, if we continue to keep open free trade, or at least good interchange of goods, so that when a nation is suffering a drought, there's food can be brought in and fill in that gap, because we're all going to suffer food scarcity at some point. Even the United States. Population growth is a function not just of numbers of children per family, but also number of families starting to raise children. So I think the population in China will continue to grow for some time. But again, I just don't see that as disaster. And I don't see that it will continue to grow inevitably. I think in the next few decades, we'll see the Chinese population begin to stabilize.
The impact of China's two-child policy remains to be seen, and people's attitude toward the implementation of the policy seem to differ. However, the environmental and social implications behind the policy may deserve further discussion. Please look for the extended version of this interview and a blog post on our website. For Arlington Public News, I'm Koala Shea.